Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Ninjas in Pyjamas have surprised everybody, starting with me by taking us to a Game 3. I actually did not think Misfits Gaming were even going to lose Game 2, but they did.
They did.
Now they've got their backs against the wall.
Decisive decisions were made. I know we love that term, decisive decisions. Well, we had to cut Mordekaiser's guitar solo off very quickly because we're already in picks and bans. We're going right into the very decisive, just like NIP in Game 2.
Ninjas in Pyjamas had side selection for Game 3 and they picked blue side. As the players took to the stage, it was smiles, jovial, laughter in the NIP camp. And for Misfits Gaming, deadly serious looks, including Maxlore giving me death stare that only The Rock could equalize.
Well, it's not like Maxlore did much against his opponents in the last game, so at that point, I don't think they're afraid of too much. But you gotta look at NIP, locked into the promotion tournament already, playing with no pressure on them. There really is no standings impact for themselves. So you can see in a game like the last one where it's a little bit loose, they got a lot in the way of the snowball. They had the rust for themselves, going right the way through the game. And sprattel had a standout performance on that Alistar. I don't think we'll see it banned, but I don't think they'll get Kalista Alistar again for NIP.
Question is, do you potentially first pick Alistar? Was it that good for sprattel?
No, I think it's a Kalista thing. I think you take the Kalista if it is available, which it isn't, so they can't do that. That would normally be the route you'd go. Now, Caitlyn is available.
I mean, this is Game 1 all over again. It's the exact same ban so far, and it was Tristana Orianna the last time. I don't think we'll see that. Well, maybe we'll see some pivots.
The Draven would be a handsomer pick, but I'm expecting the Tristana, if anything, here. Obviously, Draven pretty much loses the matchup to Caitlyn. That's why you're not going to see it. Very difficult to contend with. Orianna would make a lot of sense again for PowerOfEvil. Very standard, easy, blind, pickable champion that we know PowerOfEvil is very good on.
Yeah, absolutely the case.
Don't tease us, Misfits.
And of course, in Game 1, the Blitzcrank from Ignar was the last pick. I don't think it made a huge impact in the game. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, in Berlin, one of the first things we try to teach shoutcasters is don't talk about hovers.
But it wasn't a hover. I was watching Misfits. Sorry, I was ignoring you completely because Maxlore and PowerOfEvil were saying, please, please, Hussein, please let us play the Lux. And he shook his head. And with that, Orianna was locked in. And we're stuck in the same matchup again.
So what Stress is trying to say, guys, is it's Hussein's fault, okay? That's who we need to complain to on Twitter. As Syndra and Gnar are locked in for the Ninjas in Pyjamas, it is a different pick and ban from Game 1, but crucially, strong laner, strong laner, strong laner.
Yeah.
Those were the three things that allowed NIP to win the previous game.
It did, and that's where they looked the best. I think this is the kind of laner that now can have the presence for profit, that he can open up the map. We see the Alistar locked in now for Misfits. I'm wondering whether they ban the Janna away from the Caitlyn here and take away one of the more difficult lane setups that you can have. We have in the past seen Alistar completely denied by the Janna, the Q plus the shielding. Difficult to break through.
And of course, sprattel cannot afford to miss any of those Qs. There was a time when it used to be called something similar.
He was a professional at it.
Yeah, definitely. He used to promise a lot with his Qs. As phase 2 bans targeting the champion pool of supports. No real surprise here. Tahm Kench is already off the table. A Camille, removing that one from Alphari. Obviously, kind of that matchup into the Gnar, but no junglers secured yet for either squad, and Maokai still up.
Not yet. As you said, Maokai is available. Cho'Gath not available, one of the lanes that we have seen Gnar do very well into, so not like Misfits will go that route anyway. Like Alphari, back in the UK scene, he did from time to time play the Aurelia, but I don't see him bringing it out here.
So risky.
I like the Morgana ban, does very well against the Alistar in the lane and also setting up team fights. That's one of the things that Janna doesn't quite have the same all-around abilities. If you miss that Q, suddenly Alistar still gets in. It's difficult to stop him. You can actually trade through the shield sometimes if you get enough crowd control, knock the Caitlyn forward, but that is so unbelievably unlikely to happen.
So difficult, and of course, Misfits Gaming now, they're looking for their jungler and their support. They left Ignar's champion pick to last. Top, sorry, you are correct. Alistar is locked in. So do you counterpick? I mean, you can counterpick both of the lanes now.
As well, you can run the Maokai into Gnar. It's a tricky lane matchup, but we know just about every Maokai lane matchup is quite tricky. So NIP at this point, jungle and support. Janna likely to be one way they go. I don't think it'll be the Kayn again for HeaQ. The likes of the Rek'Sai is still available, the Lee Sin, but we don't see it in the current meta.
Do you go League of Tanks on the Misfits Gaming side with Gragas still open?
You can go Sejuani here alongside the Braum. You've got ways to proc the passive from both of them. And League of Tanks for Misfits, you could go that route if you wanted to. You've already got 2 on the front line for Misfits. You could round that out with another tank. I don't think Shen would be the way you want to go, but you can play it into Gnar.
Let's see, what are Ninjas in Pyjamas running in the jungle? Braum Caitlyn is just such an annoying lane.
Ooh.
And it is a Kayn once again. So Kayn into tank compositions. This is something that Ras does very well in if they're going to go for another tank.
This is better setup out of NIP to play the Kayn into. Of course, that big percent max health damage that can come through. HeaQ, I want to watch his early game, see how he plays it out. But it's not a Maokai jungle anymore. It's a Rengar jungle coming through from Maxlore.
And what do you make of this now? This really changes the style of team comp, right? You've got that invisible engage with the Rengar ball delivery system. You know, those old tropes we used to talk so much about. Definitely another form of like frontline engage along with Alistar looking for those flanks.
Also a form of damage in the early game you can come through. Another carry brought to the table for Misfits here. We don't see a whole lot of Rengar in Europe. There were a bunch of nerfs came through to Rengar a good few patches ago. There was that time where it was Rengar Kha'Zix pretty much every single game that we would see. Nerfs took him out. The tanks kind of replaced a lot of those early game carry junglers now in the meta. So if Rengar was playing against a tank, he'd kind of just end up smashing into a frontline. But he's playing against a Kayn, who is a little bit more on the squishy side of things.
So exciting. So exciting to see 2 non-traditional junglers on the EU LCS stage. It's the deciding game. If Misfits win with Rengar, they qualify for the quarterfinals. If they do not, they are at risk of being leapfrogged by Roccat next week. We'll break down the numbers in a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Misfits Gaming taking on the Ninjas in Pyjamas. 1 week ago, I asked a question. Where were you when the Ninjas in Pyjamas won their first series?
I was at the Analyst task.
And now I'm going to ask you, will they win their second series?
I think no, but it's still within the possibility. Deficio said it on the Analyst desk, it's not a secure win here for Misfits. NIP have got decent to winning lane setups for themselves. And that was what they used to win in game 2.
And of course, I saw a few tweets in between the games, Stress. Prolly, you know, multiple off. Yes!
Yeah, I picked them for this. I did. Amazing. I saw this. I've got you, Trevor.
Prolly, multiple coach of the split winner in the EU LCS, has deduced the problem with why Misfits lost game 2. Nash's Tooth Orianna. Where's the Alphari fan? If he gets his Nashes for the Alphari fan here in Berlin, Misfits will win for you, all right? That's what we're looking for.
That guy's really hyped. I thought you were going to say you have to now buy a PowerOfEvil jersey instead. I was going to say, that's costly.
We'll see if they win, of course.
Die-hard fans, though.
All right. What are you expecting from the junglers this game? Kayn and Elise in game 1 had a very limited impact.
Yeah. I am expecting... Oh, I want to see Maxlore go Duskblade on Rengar. It's disgusting.
Okay.
Rengar with Duskblade, going with the Orianna as well. But for now, we've got the Invade. They're trying to get onto this early game clear. Blast code. Oh, HeaQ didn't take the train.
Go over. This is terrible.
No.
HeaQ forced a flash.
Oh, no.
For first blood. And it's secured on Summer. Why did everybody get bounced away? HeaQ is now running for his life, dashes away with the Q. PowerOfEvil now joining the fray. HeaQ cannot flash over the wall. Is this a second kill to hunt Summer? It feels like it will be. The minions will secure the last hit.
Oh, no. Oh dear, oh dear. Hansama with the 2-0. NIP, it looked so clear, the game plan, but HeaQ, he was indecisive. 1 foot in the blast cone, 1 foot out, and the model clearly just was out of the blast cone radius. We'll get a super slow-mo on this. I can see why HeaQ would think he was in the blast cone radius here. Like, as we slow it down, he steps back and look, 1 foot just touching it. Oh, he thinks, oh, it's like he's on the line, he's gonna get blasted over. Nope. When did we put these in the game? Oh, that's painful.
Real. I can't believe blast cone mechanics could determine this game. One thing to note though, Hansama has not spent the gold. So he stayed in lane with that advantage. Obviously, they'll want to get an early back and then pick up that BF sword, but until you have converted that gold lead into itemization, it is not relevant.
Right, and that, as you say, is going to be the first back where we see this actually have the impact. Now, experience-wise, summoner-wise, all of these other things are going to come into play. Ignar goes in for the trade.
All right, the shield comes up from sprattel. That's going to block a lot of damage, but HeaQ with no flash, a juicy target for Ignar's combinations.
Now, Hansama is 50 gold away from a BF sword buy if he wants it, which at 3.5 minutes into the game is probably the worst thing that could possibly happen for NIP, knowing this Caitlyn is going later on in the game. Nagne, HeaQ, and Prophet suddenly have a lot more weight on their shoulders in this game. They have to compensate for some of this disparity in the bottom lane. And look, Ignar's already on the roam. The pushing power of that Syndra early could have been exploited here, but I think Ignar was spotted on the ward in the jungle. I didn't have full clarity on that, but you can see Nagne now playing further back in the lane, doesn't want to end up getting ganked early on and losing his life too.
And of course, leaning towards the side where HeaQ is currently clearing out. HeaQ on the Kayn this time round should have more options with Rost into those tanks. Well, let's take a look. Bottom lane, Hansama gonna move forward onto sprattel. The Unbreakable comes up. That'll block a couple of hits before concussive blows stuns down Ignar. And Misfits just trading very, very happily. Got a minion wave as well. So if NIP ever want to go forward, it's gonna be into that army.
Yep. Fully into that cannon wave would be detrimental. But of course, Caitlyn, you just can sit back. You don't have to be pushing forward in the lane if you don't want to. It's a much more neutral lane. Doesn't utilize the strengths of Caitlyn, but of course, you cannot risk getting engaged upon when you don't have summoners. Now, sprattel, he has his.
No, not going to go for the kill just yet, but again, it's zoning, it's control. 1,600 gold in Hansama's back pocket. Alphari's the target. Gonna try to get away to safety. Some minions helping him out.
The empowered
magic passive gives him some heal. Alphari's already flashed. The minions are still sticking with HeaQ, but now Prophet's helping out. Alphari needs the passive, not gonna find it. And Prophet gets the kill.
Yeah, that was Alphari pushing up in the lane. Bottom lane, though.
Ignite was used. sprattel gets popped. The Ignite's burning away. Tower shot tags out Ignar. HeaQ chasing forward. sprattel does not die.
Across the board, Misfits trying to play aggressively. Now, Flash came out from Hansama. Alphari, though, he was pushed up in the top lane. A little overextended. This is something we criticized Alphari for heavily in Challenger Series. Pushing without any real emphasis on where the enemy jungler was. And of course, Kayn can avoid a lot of the wards. You can actually go through different jungle pathways. I want to see whether that actually happened, because look, there was a ward in the river that just died now as I'm talking. There was a ward available for Alphari, and as HeaQ comes down towards the Baron pit, that's where I think we need to look here. Look, he avoids the ward. Shadow step up through the Baron, through the wall, and only now does Alphari really get that emphasis that HeaQ is here in his lane. And he plays it out well, considering that. Sets up the ward in the bush so that he can see HeaQ kite away. This gives his minions still the vision to try and get a little bit of extra damage down, and Alphari's desperately trying to buy time, but Mini-Na means more damage. In for the kill. NIP get away with it, but Alphari did play it pretty well.
Yeah, that passive from Maokai does so well in those scenarios. I've seen Maokai's live way longer than they should. And as we reset the lanes, Hansama has a BF sword. It's been matched by HeaQ's BF sword, but Hans has got himself boots and the attack speed dagger. Some support for Alphari in the top lane. He lost his flash in that last trade. Maxlore's also nearby. But this is just, again, showing face, just dissuading Prophet from going too far forward or going too far into Alphari's face.
The interesting thing there is Ignar was up top side as well. Now, with Hansama being in the bottom lane, this was a little bit perhaps of what we saw in Game 1. I wonder whether NIP or Misfits were anticipating NIP swapping top side. I don't think that's exactly what NIP were going to do, because you want to put this Caitlyn in the bottom lane. You want to get that push power going. Now you're suddenly out of the woods. You have some of the summoners back available on NIP. So Misfits is trying to play around that possibility perhaps, but I think Ignar spent a little bit of time out of the lane. It's okay though still. Yeah. Hansama still 2 kills up. They were trying to account for what NIP were going to do next.
All right, pretty even CS across the board. A small advantage for Nagne on that Syndra, as you would expect. Nagne Syndra in the previous game did very, very well. And he's going to need to have another stellar performance. So technically speaking, that 2-0, while yes, it will accelerate Hansama his build, there isn't a huge disparity in fighting power yet. HeaQ and sprattel, they've conceded the lane. They're playing more defensive. They don't want to get bullied or beaten up.
Right, I think that'll be really felt upon the 2 and 3 item points for the Tristana. That's really where Tristana actually ends up hurting a whole lot more, whereas Caitlyn, we already know, has to wait even later in the game. So I think the fact Hansama's going to get to that point quicker is the benefit on top of that. We mentioned the jungle as a whole lot coming into this. This game hasn't been about them once again. A lot more farming, but now Misfits want to invade on HeaQ. You heard the Rengar ultimate go off the balls here.
Oh, so well played by Ignar. The flash headbutt. Sprattel's the target of PowerOfEvil's command attack. Red buff secured by Hansama. HeaQ is looking for Maxlore. Umbral Trespass comes down. Simply not enough damage. Flash forward into the wall. HeaQ not going to be able to get tagged. Now Prophet is running with some support from Nagne. He finished the teleport. Both top laners are here to fight. Defensive flash over the wall. Ace in the hole. Body block! What happened?
They missed it!
How? HeaQ finds the targets.
Oh, they missed the block. 3 people standing around PowerOfEvil and nobody blocks it because they're all moving. They're all shuffling about.
This is a game that will be defined by blast cone mechanics and body block mechanics. Blue buff on HeaQ as well. That's just going to allow him to play safe, pilt over the wave over and over, and try to defend this tower for as long as they can.
That shouldn't happen, really. Really, that shouldn't happen, that you get killed by Ace in the hole like that. Somebody should call, I'm blocking it, and everybody basically stands still is the old trick. But Caitlyn stands still, somebody moves in the way. This was how the initial trade started. You can see sprattel trying to help out Kayn with the steel chair. Turns out he needs the Undertaker in there to really help him if he wants to survive through this, because look, that's the Braum dropping. Then they turn on to HeaQ. Umbral Trespass comes through. Not enough to get out, so he has to flash himself out. Then we look up on the top side. PowerOfEvil drops low because Prophet and Nagne able to put damage down in response. And then what happens here? They go on Prophet, trying to get the damage down. Oh, Maxlore was going left. PowerOfEvil was going right. Not on the same page.
I think PowerOfEvil sold him out.
He moved right. He could have just stood still.
I think he sold him out. You can see the damage rating there as Orianna, minus 46.2%. Below the average Orianna.
He didn't go Nash's Tooth.
There we go.
That's the thing.
Probably called it. So 10 minutes in, Stress. It's a 1,000 gold lead for Misfits. They obviously have the kill advantage thanks to those early game plays. But the man who was sort of hurting the most, HeaQ, he's now been gifted a kill.
Rengar's here.
Ooh, the hype comes down, but the stun doesn't connect.
Yeah.
Maxlore easily kills Nagne.
Looked like there was no orb there. Nagne wasn't able to stun. Actually would have hit Maxlore if it had been in the right place, but no orb means no stun. PowerOfEvil helps get that kill and now pushes onto the tower. This is the difficulty. We've seen this in game 1 where PowerOfEvil was trading ultimate basically on cooldown with Nagne. Problem is, with a Rengar running up the back of the lane, that's where this can have the real impact. Maxlore nearly at Warrior Enchant. I want to see whether he goes Duskblade next.
When you look at these two team comps as well, if Maxlore is able to distract the Nagne, Syndra, or HeaQ Caitlyn, while Hansama is wailing away on Prophet or whoever's jumping on him, there's a lot of peel for Hansama and PowerOfEvil with that Maokai, with that Alistar. Even with Orianna having some self-kill, Buster Shot as well.
And that's exactly where Maxlore is going to go in this game. You pop the Rengar ultimate, you run through unseen right onto that Caitlyn. Suddenly the Janna isn't there. You've got a Braum to try and peel and try to use the ultimate, but until Maxlore actually reveals himself, very difficult to prevent that engage. Now, on the other side of things, Alphari has to be a little careful here because Kayn's on his way up.
Okay, this could be through the wall. No, HeaQ's going to get rooted as well. Boomerang Blade has tagged Alphari.
Oh, Nagne.
Nagne's come over the wall, but he's jumped right into Hansama. This is going to be another kill for Hansama. 3-0-1. Blast Cone mechanics costs Nagne his life as he lands in the waiting hands of Misfits.
NIP just should not take this. They're good at coming from the shadows, dropping from the ceiling, smoke little things, poofs of smoke, and they appear and disappear. Not blast cones. Not the same thing. Not good at making a grand entrance.
Not ninja enough, apparently. Man, it's just weird. Like, it leaves you with this, like, strange feeling because Ninjas in Pyjamas have given up so much to these plays despite the fact they're really trying to make plays. You know, they were going for a team invade, and a small misstep cost them 2 kills. They go for a dive that could have been so good, but Misfits had already swapped and catched them, and Tau First Blood picked up as well.
Yeah, and the reason they were looking at this dive is, look, there was vision through the top side that HeaQ had already got for the rest of the team. Nagne walks through, doesn't recognize that Hansama and Ignar are coming down the lane, and then ends up just with no teammates around him. Now Misfits looking for the Rift Herald themselves. This is likely going to crash through that mid tower. Of course, bot tower does still stand. The Tristana lane wasn't able to push through the Caitlyn lane despite having an early lane advantage. That's kind of to be expected, though. But now we're entering the point where this big difference in AD carries is going to start to be felt. Hansama is getting towards 2 items, and that's trouble for NIP. They need Nagne to step up here.
Yeah, and trying to remember back to his Kalista performance from about 3 weeks ago, where Hansama also got some early advantages.
Yeah.
And then just completely took over the game. Completely carried the mid to late game. We need to see whether or not he can do the same. Misfits, gigantic lead right now. Maxlore, we can actually hear him yelling on stage.
TP coming through from Alphari as well. They've actually caught HeaQ and sprattel.
Oh, this is terrifying.
Oh, and the
Maokai
Maokai
hunt comes down. Nature's Grasp locks down sprattel on the back end. Will they give the kills to Hansama? Unbreakable's going to block some of that damage. Alphari actually gets the kill credit, and HeaQ is donated to PowerOfEvil. 7 kills to 2, 4,000 gold. It's just come apart at the seams for the Ninjas in Pyjamas.
And we talked about how it should have been good lane matchups for NIP. It should have been a comfortable laning phase into then the ability to take fights. But for Misfits, they got the early advantage, and now they've made 2 or 3 plays back-to-back to actually punish NIP and what they're trying to do on the map. NIP pushed up too far on the top side. In came the TP from Alphari. It was right on time for the Maokai ultimate to be available once again, and suddenly HeaQ and sprattel end up dying. NIP lose any sense of momentum that they were even trying to regather, and Misfits continue extending their massive lead.
Now, this was the type of game, in terms of ganking and teleports and proactive plays, that I was expecting all series. It is good to see Misfits, when they get that advantage, they really use it. One of the narratives we have had with this team is when they're even or behind, that's when they struggle. With a lead like this, they play it well.
sprattel pushed up, trying to clear the control ward because they thought they had some sense of control over the river, but they didn't. Alphari was already TPing in behind them. Ignar was in behind as well. It was an easy setup to get this set of kills. HeaQ doesn't have enough damage to deal onto Maxlore, but Maxlore still backs away. We saw the Rift Herald play in the mid lane. Looks like Misfits pushed through the bottom lane as well. This has been a very detrimental passage of play in favor of Misfits.
Man, the gold is already 6,000 up for Misfits. Not done yet. Nagne's even been tower dove by Maxlore and Ignar. And let's just quickly look at the Group A standings, because Ninjas in Pyjamas, if they lose this game, and it is likely that they will, means that Misfits Gaming will secure that playoff spot. Not only did NIP secure their first series win of summer against Roccat, now they will deny them the possibility of playoffs as well.
Deny Nagne the possibility of playing League of Legends at this point. If we had Rift Herald power play available, that would be 4 towers that just got taken. That is a significant swing of gold over to Misfits. It's gone from bad to worse for NIP, and they cannot hold on. I don't even think once HeaQ transforms that the big red machine is even going to be able to help them out in this game.
They're simply too far behind. And like the last 4 minutes is one of the most...
I mean, Nagne's quite far away, but
he's getting there.
Should be okay.
He's getting there.
He's nearly there.
Come on, Nagne.
He uses the shadow step to make sure he gets a little bit of health back, but...
it's sad that that's maybe one of the most exciting things NAP have done this game. But for Misfits, They're about to qualify for playoffs.
The crowd kind of didn't like that one.
I want to step back for a second because the last 4 minutes of play is some of the most beautiful snowballing that I have seen. Multiple lanes, multiple towers, every single mistake by Ninjas in Pyjamas, like Prophet being just in his own lane.
It's being capitalized upon.
Gnar comes backwards. That was a fancy play from Prophet. Pulverize does nothing as Alphari shoots out the Nature's Grasp Maokai. Umbral Trespass is not going to be enough. Hansama gets his 4th kill of the game. That's a Rampage. Looking for number 5, double kill. Rocket jumps onto Nagne, Unleash Power.
They got him.
Shuts him down. It's a triple for his own life. Misfits get the shutdown. Not done yet, is now Maxlore's looking for HeaQ. This is for the 17-minute ace. Ignar sends it home.
Misfits crushing through NIP. This is what everybody anticipated coming into this series, and it's taken until Game 3 for this Misfits to show up fully. Game 1, they looked decent, but NIP was still giving them a fight. Game 2, NIP looked very solid with their laners, but Game 3, from a blunderous start from NIP, a botched invade has turned this game completely on its head, and they have tried to fight back, tried to find any opening. But all they even get in this fight for getting aced is Hansama and a couple of summoners. And Misfits, we just saw them take a dragon. They'll be looking for the Baron next. This is just such an easy fight for Misfits to walk through. There's just almost nothing outside of a Syndra ult that can turn this fight anywhere near in their favor.
Oh yeah, I mean, in their favor is very strong. Well, at least get something.
That's why I said anywhere near in their favor. Their favor's a long way away.
Oh man, Misfits. Misfits gaming well played. I mean, Game 1, you know, we summarized the series, and Game 1 was like slow and steady and secure. There was no risks taken, and Misfits just out-macroed Ninjas. Game 2, the shock, the Baron calls, the surprises. Then it was evident where the weaknesses come in, and I want to talk about that a little bit because Misfits Gaming, they have qualified for playoffs. They've lost to all 3 of the top of the table teams in Group B, and that means with a likely 3rd seed from Group A, they're going to be playing the number 2 seed in Group B, which is going to be HeaQ or UOL, in my guess. And that's going to be a difficult matchup for them.
It will be a difficult matchup. I think, in my estimation, it's more likely to be UOL or Splice. I feel like those are fighting for 2 and 3. In my mind, HeaQ are at 1st place, and I think that's Misfits would be breathing a sigh of relief from that. I think Splice and UOL could catch them, but I think that's more likely. Smashed into the turret, but look, Misfits are going to get so much more the other side of the map. NIP just trying to get a kill out of this.
All right, 3
for the Baron.
Caught up by that Nature's Grasp. Alphari's going to try run for his life.
Oh, look how long it takes to kill him.
Hit points from that Sap Magic passive. With Infernal and Mountain, a 20-minute, 10-second Baron. And that will be the earliest Baron of the summer split. I don't even need to ask the stats team for permission.
Wow.
Pretty obvious call. Misfits Gaming, just, well played.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, like you said, Splice versus UOL, that's where they're going to set their sights. And fixing some of the problems of playing from behind or having those early game junglers that don't have early game impact, for example.
I think that's going to be a great matchup, Trevor. Splice versus Unicorns. I'd love to see that. We've had a fun matchup already today. When is that?
Well, about 20 minutes, tops.
That's, are you saying
including the
NIP are going to, I was going to say, you're telling me they're lasting another 10 minutes on this?
That's including the ad break. But yeah, I mean, Ninjas in Pyjamas now. Look at it this way. If everybody's wanted to, they're still in the bush.
Where are you going on this?
Oh, my word.
So, like, we can get him again. We got him once.
Okay, let's see.
Oh. Does he know?
Are they really going to try again?
I mean, look, Misfits aren't committing topside because they don't know exactly where they are. So this is extending the game. You lied, Trevor. It might not be 20 minutes. It might be 25.
My word. Misfits Gaming. They're actually so confused because if you don't know what your enemies are doing, you don't know how to play against it or around it or with it.
Ah, Sun Tzu.
There we go. Ninjas in Pyjamas pulling the surprise everyone tactic.
Well, there's a big surprise coming somebody's way soon because Maxlore finished his Duskblade and hasn't put his claws on anyone since doing it. So hopefully we'll catch it before they die. Our observers, I trust in you. You're going to find the Maxlore kill when it actually happens.
Yeah, see if we can get that empowered savagery down.
Yeah.
And chunk somebody out.
And this is a situation where Kayn as a jungler still isn't necessarily helping. He's not providing a frontline threat. Sure, he can do well against tanks, but not with this kind of gold lead. 12,000 gold. Kayn is never going to do enough damage, even as Rast. With that % max health damage, you've got a little crowd control that comes out. You don't even have a second item completed yet. Don't even have that Black Cleaver to try and do that massive amount of armor shred. And unfortunately, the enemies all have about 3 items completed themselves, so they will melt you very quickly.
Absolutely the case. You talked about that gold lead at 20 minutes. I've got a really uninspiring stat for a team that is 10th in the league with only 5-game wins. But Ninjas and Pyjamas are 1 win and 14 losses when behind in gold at 20 minutes. Well, that seems obvious, right? Because they've lost so many games. The 1 win they picked up was the previous game this series. They were down 3,000 gold, and they picked it up. So it was their first win from behind at 20 minutes. That's a small victory for them.
That's what they'll hold on to.
I told you it was a disappointing stat. They're like, I just had to get it out, you know? They're standing there. Misfits, the last minute of Baron now. Gonna pop open this inhibitor turret. A couple shots away from going down. Hansama respecting the burst damage of Nagne, but Nagne's low on mana. So he's forced backwards. This means the tower will go down just a couple extra autos. Unbreakable. Time's out and Sprattel forced to run for his life. The explosive charge won't kill him, and it will drop him low. Just slowly but surely. Now this is game 1, Misfits.
Yep.
The control, the steady, the focused team. They don't want to make mistakes.
The problem is, part of me is dying to see Maxlore hit his ult and just run at somebody, but they're not. Thankfully, they're trying to close it out slowly. Nagne, run away from the cats!
Kitten! Ah, the command attack did it instead. HeaQ, oh, look at that, 3 minutes.
Oh, here we go.
Out by Nature's Grass. That's a double kill for Hansama.
He's going to jump on HeaQ. Oh,
for another one, gigantic crit as the Piltover Peacemaker flies across Misfits Gaming. 24 minutes in, the Nexus turret is the focus. Maxlore trying to get the damage. Hansama now looking to shut down Profit as he's headbutted to safety. Misfits instead focus their attention on the Nexus turret. HeaQ trying to do what he can. He at least gets 1 kill onto Ignar's Alistar. The Nexus is being focused down. The Ninjas in Pyjamas simply don't have anything to stop Misfits. Misfits Gaming will shut down Ninjas and qualify for the quarterfinals.
That's what everyone expected out of Misfits Gaming. It came in game 3, a lot through that botched invade early on out of NIP, but when they got the lead, easy enough in their minds to close the game out. Controlled at the end when they needed to, 9-1-4 on the game out of Hansama. And I think Misfits will come out of this series saying, okay, we got the win, that's fine, but we need to look at what happened in game number 2 on top of everything else.
Yeah, definitely the case. But some problems to work through on the Misfits Gaming side. And for a game that was, in theory, meant to be making a statement, getting some confidence, I think there is a lot to take away. Game 1 and game 3. If you look at them in isolation, a lot to praise. But it's not because of game 2, that blemish.
Yeah, a blemish there, and as we turn attention also to NIP, you look at that game 2 performance, looked very strong. You wonder what would happen in game 3 for NIP if that invade goes right, if it works, if they all go over the wall, how much better is that start for NIP?
And also, the amount of pressure it puts on the team, right? Because you are 2 kills behind, because you know Tristana's going to hit that power spike. Stress, I actually did get a brief message from production from the stats team, a little bit passive-aggressive. Let me know that it was the earliest Baron. Okay. Not because I said it, because they confirmed it.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so just letting you know. It was about 20 minutes and 9 seconds, 20 minutes and 10 seconds. I need to verify exactly which second, but either way, the earliest Baron of the summer split.
I thought you were telling me they were passive-aggressive at me. I was going to say, I'm not the one treading on their territory.
I was the one that confirmed it. But look at this, by the way. Misfits, when they lost to G2, they spent about 10 to 15 minutes backstage reviewing the game, still sitting at the PC, the observer machine. And still on stage talking about the series, talking about what went right, what went wrong. And again, it's like it's renewed focus right at the end of the season.
Yeah, and that's what we needed to see because we wanted them to shift up a little bit of their focus in the games. We said they slowed down a bit, and I think some of those aspects were fixed with this attempt at a different jungle style, but I certainly think Misfits still have a lot more work to do ahead of those playoffs.
I agree, and I think series win is definitely going to help. Guaranteed quarterfinal spot brings us to player of the series for the series, and it is going to be the man that we've spoken a lot about, Maxlore. Had some big words about the jungle style, his approach, and his Rengar, very good, albeit the team had a very big advantage. So it's always good to be a Rengar in that kind of situation.
Easy to play Rengar when you're crushing people, difficult to play it from behind. And we also saw another difficult to play from behind champion come out for Misfits in the Elise.
Yeah.
That was one of the game 2 picks that didn't sit too well for Misfits. But overall, I think Maxlore in the right place at the right time on a lot of occasions. Not the most convincing performance out of him, but still, I think, a very solid basis for Misfits to work from.
I agree, and I think that Rek'Sai, that farm alarm, you know, just get 3 items, I think he did it by 25 minutes, was ridiculous. PowerOfEvil is just getting set up for an interview, so Pyro will be chatting to him shortly. And just before we get to that, maybe we'll find out about that Nashus.
I was going to say, he didn't build it in this game. Did not build it in game 3.
What that means is, Prolly was wrong. Not cool, bro.
Can't get coach of the split this.
You can't. There we go. Dunzo. With that, Misfits Gaming are ready for playoffs. Let's head over to Pyra, who's sitting down with their mid laner, PoE.
All right, thanks, guys. No, I'm not going to ask about Nashus 2. That's been a thing for 2 years, Power. I don't want to bring it up anymore. But you guys made the playoffs. And finally, it's been a rough couple weeks. How's it feel?
Yeah, I'm personally really relieved after losing, I think, 3 weeks in a row, or like 3 best of 3s in a row. So I think it's pretty good, and it feels really good to reach playoffs, obviously.
Yeah, so you guys managed to finally put it away. It was definitely a long time in coming. But it seems like the Misfits have kind of, you know, like as you alluded to, stalled out a little bit in the last several weeks. What's been going on?
I don't know. So I think Fnatic and G2, we lost against them in the last 2 weeks. So they were just better. They just outclassed us, and we need to improve for playoffs to beat them. And against Splice, I think we had a really unfortunate just decision in the second game, which led us losing the series. So I think we are kind of equal to them, and I'm sure we can beat them in playoffs if we face them.
Okay, so that's one team that you think you'll be able to handle, but right now, since you have just lost to all these other teams that you're going to be facing off potentially in playoffs, what specifically do you think the team needs to work on to kind of right the ship here?
Well, first of all, when we fall behind, we are really not passive, but either we just like YOLO and we just all die and we just like try to fight and fight and fight, kind of like unicorn style, and then we die with like 40 deaths. Or we just don't do anything. So we need to get more creative in plays and try to come back more. And I think in order to do that, we need to just play out all scrims and try to be more positive, I think, in the scrims.
Well, it sounds like you guys have a game plan. Hey, congratulations on the win. Looking forward to see how you do in playoffs.
Thanks.
All right, well, that's it. But don't go anywhere. When we come back in 3.5, we will, of course, have Unicorns of Love facing off against Splice with big playoff implications. You won't want to miss it.
Pyjamas have surprised everybody, starting with me by taking us to a game 3. I actually did not think Misfits Gaming were even going to lose game 2, but they did.
They did.
Now they've got their backs against the wall. HeaQ cannot flash over the wall. Is this a second kill to Hunt Summer? It feels like it will be. The minions will secure the last hit.
It's okay, Kayn's jungle is good.
Alphari's already flashed. The minions are still sticking with HeaQ, but now Prophet's helping out. Alphari needs the passive, not gonna find it. And Prophet gets the kill. And Summer gets his 4th kill of the game. That's a Rampage. Looking for number 5, double kill. Rocket jumps onto Nagne. Unleash power.
They got him.
Shuts him down. It's a triple for his own life. Maxlore's looking for HeaQ. This is for the 17-minute ace. Ignar sends it home. Focus down. The Ninjas in Pyjamas simply don't have anything to stop Misfits. Misfits Gaming will shut down Ninjas and